My name is Chris Riggett. I work with the City of Toronto and our Enterprise Toronto team that has pulled together today's event. We've got a great lineup for you today, some great inspirational keynotes this morning that are going to provide some insight in how they built their businesses and hopefully give you some great ideas on building your businesses and growing your businesses here in the City of Toronto. This afternoon, we've got some tactical breakout sessions that are really around activation and connecting you to resources that'll help you build your businesses. And throughout the day, we've got some great partners here who have resources for all of you in building your businesses here, as well as a number of funders and partners that can help you on the financing side. So we'd encourage you throughout the day to visit our various partners here that are here to help you out. Putting these types of events on, of course, requires a great team, and we have a great team of corporate partners who have made today possible. I want to thank our long-term partner, TD Business Banking, who has been an ongoing sponsor of the City of Toronto small business programs for a number of years. Our partners at Yellow Pages, our new partner at Microsoft, True Shield Insurance, Vistaprint, Metroland Media, and of course the province of Ontario, who help provide funds to help us put these types of events on and deliver services for small businesses here in the City of Toronto. And of course, thank you to all of you for making time and joining us here. So let's move on with the content and have a great day of learning about how to build our businesses here in the city. With that, I'm going to turn it over to, again, one of our key partners in bringing these events and these services to businesses like yourself, Helder De Silva with TD Business Banking. Thank you, Helder.
Good morning and welcome to the 2017 Small Business Money Forum. I'm Helder De Silva, Senior Manager of Small Business Banking at TD. TD has been a proud supporter of Enterprise Toronto events for over 7 years. Helping small businesses succeed is a big priority for us. That's why we're proud to be the official partner for Big Dreams for our small business entrepreneurs. We value the contributions of entrepreneurs and the prosperity you bring to our communities across the country. Small businesses are the engine of economic growth, employment, and innovation. Over the years, I've seen many small businesses thrive and know that working for yourself can bring many rewards, such as freedom, flexibility, and the chance to follow your dreams. But it can also bring new challenges, especially when it comes to funding your business and understanding the market. Today, Enterprise Toronto has organized a great session to help you connect to financial resources which will help you grow your business and succeed. I'm pleased to introduce our keynote speaker today, a serial entrepreneur and a successful business developer, Sol Orwell. I know you said you didn't want me to go through your long intro, but I got to tell you, it's a pretty fascinating background, so I'm going to do it anyways. With over 18 years of entrepreneurial experience, Sol has been able to bootstrap multiple businesses across various industries, generating over 8 figures. He is well known for his latest work on Examine.com, a website that provides independent scientific information on dietary supplements and nutrition. This impressive website garners around 70,000 visitors a day and has grown into a 7-figure business. Sol's work on Examine.com has been widely recognized. Notably, in 2015, Fast Company named Examine.com one of the world's top 10 most innovative companies in fitness. Sol's work has been featured in a number of publications, including Forbes and Men's Fitness. Men's Fitness called him a game changer in 2014, alongside Stephen Colbert and Pharrell. Those are pretty big names. Sol's passion for health and fitness has also given him the opportunity to serve on Arnold Schwarzenegger's fitness advisory panel. As you can see, Sol has clearly had an impressive career, from online games to domain names, to local search, daily deals, and nutrition. He has a wealth of knowledge to share today. We're thrilled to have him join us to share his key learnings from bootstrapping over 18 years and the lessons he learned to apply to any business he creates. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Sol Orwell.
So, I'll be talking about 3 lessons that I've learned over the past 18 years. And before I get into it, I want to go through an example that really underlines what I'm going to be talking about today. So, there was this business that was booming, it was doing well, but they were having problems because their computer system wasn't working. So they tried everything they could to fix it. They turned it off and on. Usually that works. they kicked it, they asked for help, they hired experts, they tinkered out with it themselves, but they couldn't fix it. Eventually, they heard about an expert who could come in and solve it. He'd be a little bit pricey, but he'd make it work. No problem, they said, let's bring him in. So the expert comes in. He hems, he haws, he looks around, he pokes around. Eventually, unscrews a screw, pulls out a screw out of his pocket, and screws it back in. He turns it on, and it works. It's fantastic. Business is booming again. So the next week, they get the invoice, $10,000. They're like, what the hell is this? The dude took 30 minutes. Where's this $10,000 coming from? So they call him up, and they say, hey, can you give us an itemized invoice to make sure we understand why we're paying you so much? He's like, sure, all right. So next week, he sends another invoice. Screw, $5. And where to put it, $9,995. And I love this example because it reminds us how important experience is. Nowadays, with entrepreneurship being really cool and trendy and whatnot, experience has become underrated. We think you need to be young, that you need to have these great ideas, and that's the only way to be a great entrepreneur. But the reality is that this is a myth. We hear about Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook, billionaire. Even Spiegel, this man's the co-founder of Snapchat. He just became a multi-billionaire over the past week when Snapchat went public. But the reason we hear about these people is because they're outliers. They are not the norm. They are atypical. In reality, when it comes to an average successful founder, Forbes found that they've been at it for 6 to 10 years and they're 40 years old. The Harvard Business Review found that they're in their 30s. There's a lot of experience that accumulates that lets you make smarter decisions and smarter choices when you're running a business. I myself have been at it for 18 years. And through these entire 18 years, all I've been able to garner are 3 lessons to impart upon you today. So just to really emphasize how long 18 years is, 1999. So back in 1999, this was released. There was no Queen Bee at the time. It was just Beyonce with Destiny's Child. Back in 1999, this was the most popular selling phone. The iPhone was still 8 years away from existing. And for my local Torontonians, back in 1999, the average cost of a detached house was $225,000. I don't know if you guys read the Toronto Star report this weekend, but it's now up to $1.5 million. 18 years is a really, really long time. And so before I get into these 3 lessons, I ask for one thing: don't take any notes. The goal here is I want these 3 lessons to really burrow themselves into your brain. I want it to percolate in there. I want it to simmer in that little noggin of yours. Also, at the end, I will give you a link where you can download the slides, so there's no need for you to write anything. I want you to just sit back and listen. So, lesson number 1. Opportunity is everywhere. So oftentimes when I tell people all that I've done, or you hear people talk about other business people, they'll say, they got lucky. They're at the right place at the right time. They just knew the right people. And oftentimes other people will respond. They'll say, no, luck is what you make of it. You work hard, you get luckier. That's fine. But I want us to reconsider what luck is for a moment. I want to think of it as a mathematical equation. And we say that luck is a function of observation. The better you can observe, the luckier you're going to get. So, this is Richard Wiseman. He is a magician who became a psychologist. And the things that he researched primarily focused on the lucky versus the unlucky. And so an interesting experiment he did was he got a bunch of people and he said, do you consider yourself lucky or unlucky? And he put them in 2 cohorts, lucky and unlucky. And then he gave them a newspaper. And he said, go through this newspaper and count the number of images you can find in this newspaper. Easy task. The unlucky people, it took them 2 minutes to do it. Whereas the lucky people, it only took them seconds. And why? Because in the newspaper, it said, once you open it up, it said, there are 43 images in this newspaper, tell the researcher now. And seeing this image, we actually mocked it up. I'm really curious how many people actually noticed that in the top right corner, that's exactly what we put there. That's observation. So those people, they weren't just lucky, they were more observant. They saw what was around them. And that goes back to even my own story and how all of this happened for me. So ethnically, I'm Kashmiri. It's what Pakistan and India keep fighting over. I was born in Pakistan, spent most of my days in Saudi Arabia, a couple years in Japan, back to Saudi Arabia, and then for 8th grade, we moved to Houston. And to say the least, I went through massive culture shock. I was beyond out of my element, right? I was going to Latino middle school. It was different. Everything was different. Everything was not what I was ready for. And to just give you a simple example, this is Katy Perry's, album cover. They still exist. But if you were to find this in Saudi Arabia, this is the kind of censorship you would have found, right? They covered everything. And so this precocious 14-year-old was completely out of his element. And throughout this little conversation about me, I'm going to have these slides so you can see how I evolved as an entrepreneur. I wasn't born an entrepreneur. I wasn't born with confidence. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But over time, over these 18 years, I was able to develop the skill set to be an entrepreneur. So, as this incredibly shy 14-year-old, online games were my refuge. This is what I hid myself in. I could be myself. I could speak and not feel like someone was going to attack me or anything like that. I felt comfortable. But I also grew frustrated. All of us are hanging out in this game, but that's all we did. But what if we want to talk about strategy? What if we talk about tactics? What if we want to even talk about ourselves? So out of that frustration, I created a website called ogaming.com. And we did OGaming.com. We covered news, we covered tactics, and we covered multiple games, beyond ones I even played myself. And through this site, I accidentally ran into another site called My Super Sales. And what did they do? They sold virtual currency and virtual items. And seeing the opportunity, this is back when the ads industry started dying in 99, 2000, I started selling virtual currency on this website. And we did bananas. It's the most money I've ever made in my life. We literally just made money hands over fist. And if you're curious of how it works, this is absolutely absurd. We're busy professionals, right? Let's say it takes you 50 hours to get the Sword of Doom in some online game. You don't have 50 hours, so you come to us. And then we would go to gamers that have been playing for 50, 60 hours, and we say, hey, listen, we'll buy you Sword of Doom for 20 bucks. They're happy, right? They're making money. We would then turn around and sell the Sword of Doom to the professional for $500. It was fantastic. But all because I saw the opportunity of, hey, online gaming is more than just some kind of place for me to play video games. It's a lot more. It's a community. It's a lot more than that. And so this is me in university. I'm starting to feel a modicum of success. And so going back to my OGaming site, back in that days, there was no WordPress. There was no CMS for you to make it easy. Most people use this kludgy software called News Pro. It was the worst. And as I grew more and more frustrated with it, I was like, all right, here's my opportunity. I created a company called EvoDev, and we started selling article software. And this was an utter disaster. I lost everything. But I tried. I thought there was an opportunity, so I went for it. And failures come along. That's fine. And so what I realized was the ones who were using our software that were doing the best, they were blogging. Again, this is back in the day when blogging was new. So I was like, all right. I got into the blog space, started doing blog directories, why not? And around this time, I moved to Yorkville. So this is, I think, 2004. So this was the first condo that was in Yorkville and Yonge. Back in those days, even Wanda's Pie in the Sky was across the street. And at this time, there was no Google Maps. There was no way to find out what was around locally. So as I grew frustrated being, hey, I'm in this community, this new neighborhood, and I have absolutely no clue what's in there, I literally walked around the entire neighborhood, took pictures of every single business, and put it online. There are 69 businesses that I indexed in Yorkville. And this started doing well. Started getting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of visitors a day. At this time, I also started speaking at events. As you can see, I had the greatest haircut ever, making it look good. And so as the Yorkville went well, I realized here's another opportunity and expanded to all of Toronto. Again, this is before Yelp or any of these guys even existed. And it did really, really well. And oftentimes we get so stuck in this loop of being an entrepreneur, I've got to make more money, I got to do this, I got to do that. So while everyone was zigging, I zagged a bit and I essentially retired. For me, entrepreneurship has always been a methods to being independent, to being able to do whatever I want, whenever I want. I'm so independent, I legally changed my entire name because the idea that I did not get to choose my name was completely unacceptable to me. That's who I am. And so I went off and I lived in the States, and that was fun. And then I went off and I lived in Argentina, and that was fun. And for anyone who's been to Argentina, you'll know that the gelato, the helado, is the best you will ever taste anywhere. And one of the secrets is you can order it online for delivery. So every night, I started ordering dulce de leche con brownie, caramel and brownie ice cream, to my apartment. And it literally went down like this drug deal-ish looking event down there. And as I ate more and more ice cream and was hanging around and having a blast in Argentina, I kept eating and eating. And I got a little bit rounder and rounder over time. And then I moved to Manhattan and I had a great time. And if you've been to Manhattan, you know they've got amazing cookies, they've got amazing pizza. And so I became even more and more round, while continuing to keep that amazing haircut. And so eventually, I moved back to Canada. And back in Canada and around all my old friends, I started getting fit and active again. Started getting in shape. And I started losing weight. I was like, okay, you know what? I read these supplements. I'm going to buy a few supplements to help me with my weight loss. So I bought a few supplements. Maybe a little bit more than few. And I will say that the Highland Park in the bottom left, that is a very legitimate form of supplement. Regardless, as I did this, I realized, and I grew frustrated again. I was like, these supplement companies are ripping us off. We don't need any of this when you're losing weight. And so next, I started up a company called Examine.com. And all we did was we started off with 7 supplements. That's it. I was like, there's a need in the marketplace. There's a frustration I'm here to solve, saying we need a reliable source of supplement information. We turned 6 years old next week, sorry. We're getting over 2 million visitors a month. We are the juggernaut in that space. And we're not just in men's fitness and men's journal and men's health. We've been in the BBC, we've been in the New York Times, we helped write articles on bone broth for Mother Jones and so many more. And as this business did really well, and people started noticing I had a fun life while having a successful business, people started reaching out to me. They said, hey, I want to pick your brain about entrepreneurship. I want to realize how you're making this work. For the record, Jason here says he's going to send me cookies. He sent me over 40 cookies, and we'll get into that too. And so out of this, I saw another opportunity. I started talking about entrepreneurship at SJO.com. But no coaching, no consulting, it's not who I am. It was an outlet for me. It was an opportunity, a source of frustration for me. And that's how we evolve as an entrepreneur. And so my next project is pet.org, getting into the pet space. And why? Because I've got this ferocious dog right there. And anyone who has dogs or cats or any pets, you look up information online, most of it is absolutely garbage. And I'm like, all right, I'm frustrated. I can solve this. And so when I say opportunity is everywhere, every time you feel frustrated or you feel annoyed, that is an opportunity for you to do something about it. It might not be a business idea, that's okay, but every time you feel that tingling of annoyance, that's an opportunity for a business right there. And oftentimes people think, hey, I have to do this big business, I have to think of something Uber or Airbnb. But you don't need to be that big. I mean, last year alone, 84% of Canadians shopped online. And of that 95%, 18 to 34. These are people who spend money. And this is just Canada. We get south of the border, that's almost 30 million Canadians. And if we get south of the border, almost 80% of Americans are shopping online. That's 250 million people south of the border ready to buy your stuff. When we look at the actual numbers, $18.5 billion in retail e-commerce in Canada. This is not even talking about advertising spend or anything like that. In the States, $395 billion. Collectively, that's $413 billion we have access to in Canada and the US. That's a lot of money. And summing all of that up, you get to opportunity is everywhere. And you may think, again, you need to do this crazy idea, but you can be the most specific little thing and make it work for you. I'm going to give you a few examples. All of these people are in Toronto. They all have 7-figure businesses in the most esoteric, random topics. Soxy. My buddy Boris started this. He's a fashionable dude. He was in LA. He saw some cool socks. He's like, I think more people should buy these socks. Now he has a factory in Korea making his socks for him. He has a sock subscription service, been in Forbes and all that. My friend UJ, fellow immigrant. loved journaling as a way of expressing gratitude about feeling better about himself. And he said, you know what? Other people need to do this. It's such a no-brainer. Tim Ferriss, all these other people, they swear by this. My friend Timmy, he used to work at Maple Leafs Meats. He's like, you know what? I'm tired of this stuff. I want some high-quality cured meats. 7-figure business all over GQ and whatnot. My buddy Craig, he wanted to bring a social side to tickets and events. Universe.com was actually bought out by Ticketmaster. Doing decently right there. Diana Goodwin, Aquamobile, she spoke, I believe, at the last Small Business Forum. Most people, they do this summer job of painting. She decided to go with swimming instead. And she realized people desperately need swim instructors. Boom, there's a business right there. She saw the opportunity. My friend Jason, he loves connecting people, bringing high-level people together. And he realized that's hard. Curation is hard. So he made an event out of it. 150 seats, $10,000 a ticket. He sells out months in advance. Opportunity right there. My friend Tyler, he'd go to music festivals. He'd put on these temporary tattoos. They were absolutely garbage. He got frustrated. He's like, there has to be a better way. These guys are funded to several $1 million now. All because there's so much money online in the US and Canada alone that you don't need this huge idea. You just need this one little itch that you're fixing, and you can make a sustainable business out of it. So lesson number 1, opportunities everywhere. 1, anyone can be successful. 2, observe your frustrations. And 3, solve a frustration. Lesson number 2, you need to talk to your users. So oftentimes when you talk to a life coach or a business coach or whatever, they'll talk about you need to create your customer avatar. You need to know what the demographics are. You need to know how old they are and what they like and what language they like and where they're from, blah, 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 blah. Garbage. That's not the job of your business. Instead, I want you to think about something called jobs to be done. A customer hires you because they have a specific job they need to get done, and you're the one doing that job for them. You're here to solve problems customers are trying to solve in very specific circumstances. And so my favorite example of that is the milkshake story. So this is not about P Streets, but they're in Toronto, great, delicious milkshakes. So there's this fast food company, and they were trying to juice their sales from milkshakes. And so they did everything, right? They did this customer research. They found out what age brackets the customers were and where they lived, and they tried to use their lingo and all that jazz. Nothing was happening. So finally, they brought in a man named Clayton Christensen, professor at Harvard. He does great work in figuring out what is making people tick. And so he's like, all right. So he started surveying and researching and talking to people who were buying milkshakes. And he realized that 40% of them were buying them in the morning. He's like, well, okay, this is interesting. That's not a time for dessert. So he started asking them, like, why are you buying it in the morning? Like, what's going on? So it turned out these people were buying milkshakes in the morning because they had a long and boring commute. And a milkshake was something they could use with one hand. It was something that didn't finish quickly like a soda or a burger. And it was something that kept them full and took time to ingest until they got to lunchtime. So hearing that, they made thicker milkshakes and more interesting milkshakes, such as donuts and whatnot on top. And sales went through the roof. Because the job the customer was hiring that milkshake was to keep me entertained and keep me full on my commute. So how do you figure out what jobs need to be done? You talk to your users. People come up to me and ask me all the time, what can I write about and what can I sell? And always the answer is talk to your users. And the easiest way to do that is when you survey them. Ask them. What are they looking for? What do they need? What do they wish you could solve? So for example, at examine.com, when you sign up, we get up to 1,000 signups a day. We send you a quick welcome email. But the pertinent part right here is we ask you, what do you need help with? And people send us some long answers, and we love it. Because again, if we just highlight the important parts, we'll notice that they kept asking about creatine, which is a supplement, and kidneys. So what do? We created a page on it. And now if you search for creatine kidney on Google, we're number 2 right there. This generates us maybe 10, 20 visitors a day for this one specific page. If you actually ask the question, does creatine cause kidney problems? You'll find we're actually number 1 right there. And for those that are curious, creatine does not cause kidney problems unless you have pre-existing renal issues. But the beauty of this is once you've surveyed them, once you've figured out what they want and what they need, then you can literally sell them what they asked for. They're actually saying, please solve this problem for me. But when I say talk to your users, to take it really next level, you need to get on the phone with them. And there's two reasons. One, when you are on email, you're being distracted, right? Facebook's coming in, messages coming in, Twitter notifications, people are texting you. You can't really focus. Plus, people don't type that fast, so they're not going to really get into it. The second reason you really need to get on the phone is the intent and tone of someone's voice makes a huge difference. And my favorite example for that is, I never said he licked my face. This is from my friend John Romanello. He's a New York Times bestseller. So if we go through this relatively innocuous-looking phrase and emphasize different words, I never said he licked my face, which means someone else said it. I never said he licked my face, which means someone else possibly stated it. I never said he licked my face, implying that someone else has licked my face. I never said he licked my face, which means something else was done to my face. I never said he licked my face, which means someone else's face was licked. And finally, I never said he licked my face, which means some other body part of mine was licked. All from this incredibly, relatively, but bizarre statement of I never said he licked my face. Which is why it's really important to get on the phone, because it lets you have this conversation. It lets you probe follow-up questions, which you can't do in a survey or an email or whatnot. And while you're on the phone and you're having this conversation, now you can start figuring out your demographics. Now you can start figuring out what language is it that people respond to. What is it they want to listen to? And this extra benefit of all this talking, you start building up a relationship. Because that's what you want with your customers. The better your relationship, the much more likely they are to buy something from you. It's far easier to make things people want than to make people want things. So lesson number 2, talk to your customers. 1, start a conversation. 2, figure out what jobs they need done. And 3, do a job for them. It's like moths to a flame. Or a light bulb in this case, but you get what I'm saying. So, lesson number 3, you need to focus and ask. The problem with this photo right here is a lack of focus. Hope you got all that. You need to focus on what you're best at. And a great example of someone who has focused what they're simply best at, Usain Bolt. So here's a man who crushes the competition in the 100 meters and 200 meters. And with the way he runs, that he's slow off the blocks, he's really tall, you'd imagine he'd be great at the 400 meters. But the reason he doesn't do the 400 meters is it requires a lot more aerobic capacity. It requires a lot more endurance out of him. Whereas for the 100 and 200 meters, it's pure anaerobic. So he never needs to think about, how do I get my cardio up? He focuses on what he does best. And by doing that, he's become an absolute legend. You may have heard of the book So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport. He's also the one who wrote Deep Work. What you may not know is that it's actually a quote from Steve Martin. And the full quote is, be so good they can't ignore you. And the only way to achieve that level is by focusing what you're best at. Steve Martin's a great example of that. For those who don't know his comedic style, it was much more physical. I wouldn't say slapstick, but he had instruments. He actually got his audience to get up and they'd leave the auditorium and whatnot. It was a very unique and interesting style of comedy. But he saw the opportunity. He was actually in plays at Universal, I believe, back in the day. And he saw the opportunity that people wanted to have this kind of interaction. And so he talked to people. He figured out what they wanted. He figured out what they liked. And that's what he doubled down on. He focused on it. He didn't go do stand-up or anything else in a traditional way. He focused on his bizarre Steve Martin kind of comedy. And that's why he's also a legend. We go to examine.com. We get 2 million visitors a month. We're a juggernaut now. But when we started, we just looked at bodybuilding supplements, those 7 supplements I mentioned. And once we dominated the field in that, then we got into fitness supplements. Then we expanded to all supplements. Then nutrition, and now upcoming we'll get into certification. At every single stage, we made sure we were the brand name associated with that topic and then we worried about expanding. And once you're focused, once you're the best, you have to go for the ask. Because unless you ask, the answer is always no. And to me, this is honestly the most disappointing part of entrepreneurship, or where most entrepreneurs fail, is they don't ask for the sale. And to me, that's disrespecting yourself, your time, your effort, and your knowledge. If you don't ask for the sale, what are you going to do? This is not a charity. You need to have money. So when we think of Thomas Edison, oftentimes people think, yeah, perseverance, focus, right? He focused hard on making that light bulb. He just kept at it. But to me, the more interesting example of him is the stock ticker. So he created a stock ticker, and he went out to New York, and he met with the stock exchange guys. And they're like, all right, how much do you want? He would have been happy with $5,000, but he asked for $25,000, and they said yes. Just by asking, he got 500% of what he was originally going for. That simple element. On my own personal side, going for the ask, I have something called the cookie life. So as you remember, this is what I was looking at, like at my peak, and I've always had a sweet tooth. And when I came back to Toronto, I did my research, and I was like, I need to find the best chocolate chip cookies in Toronto. So there's this place called Le Gourmand at Richmond and Spadina, amazing cookies. I've been there like literally 200-300 times. So in December of 2015, I was telling my friend about these cookies, and she's like, no, they can't be that good. I'm like, trust me, woman. So we go there, we try them, and she's like, you know what, you're right. Best chocolate chip cookies I've ever had. I'm like, I told you. So a week later, she then posts on my wall on Facebook and says, I found better cookies. And I'm like, dear God, you've like lost your mind. So her and I, we banter back and forth, and in comes her friend Renee. I've never met Renee. I have no idea who Renee is. And Renee says, you know what, I can make better cookies than both of the places you're talking about. And I'm like, dear God, it's an infestation. You guys are just multiplying. So eventually I was like, okay, and I went for the ask. I said, we need to do a blind taste test. Let's figure this out. They readily agreed. And then I went for the ask again. I said, Renee, you invited yourself to my wall. I'm inviting myself to your house. You shall host said blind taste test. And Renee says, all right. Other people started chiming in. Less than a month later, we had the inaugural chocolate chip cookie off. There's 18 cookies there. You can see me enjoying myself. But the only reason that happened was because I asked, because I said, let's do this. Usually this is where most stories end now, but after I posted this on my wall on Facebook, other people started chiming in saying, I can make even better cookies. And yet again, I went for the ask. I said, all right, send me your cookies. So in February 2016, this is 13 months ago, one person sent me a batch of cookies. And then more people, and more, and more, and more, and more. And it wasn't even just cookies anymore. I started getting pies and whatnot. All because I asked. Over the past 13 months, I've had over 120 people send me primarily cookies. And we're not just talking about normal cookies. You can see in the top left area, there's a cast iron cookie. That's 9 inches. In the bottom left, that's a 13-inch cookie. Next to it is a chocolate chip cookie pie. All because I had, in a way, the audacity to ask. Because the worst case was someone would be like, nah. And I'm like, all right, no worries. And so after this happened, I was like, okay, 2017 is coming up. We have to do another chocolate chip cookie off. How can we make this more insane? So chocolate chip cookie off 2017, which was about 6 weeks ago, we had 34 people bring cookies. And of those 34, 27 of them were professionals. And of those 27 bakers, professionals, I knew 5 of them before. I literally emailed them and I said, hey, this is what we're doing. We'd love it if you joined us. That's it. I went for that ask. All because of that simple, let's do a blind taste test, and because I said, all right, send me your cookies. That's all it is. So lesson number 3, focus and ask. Focus on your job, be damn good, and then go for the ask. And so when we wrap up these 3 lessons, we have opportunities everywhere. Talk to your customers and focus and ask. What's brilliant about this is these aren't linear. These are all interconnected. If I'm talking to my customers, I'm finding out new opportunities I never thought about. If I'm talking to my customers, I know what to ask them and what to focus on. If I'm focusing, I know what to ask my customers about. And if I'm focusing on one niche, all these opportunities start opening up. And finally, when I'm looking at all these opportunities, I know exactly what to talk to my customers about, and I know exactly what to really, really focus on. That's all there is to it. You can find the slides at sjo.com/Toronto. If you have any questions, my email is right there. Otherwise, thank you for your time.